We Gucci.
That's crazy. All right, try it again. Back at it again with the RSC pre-jump. Rob, Moose, and myself on the desk. HUD producing for the first time. Rob insulted my competency, so it's okay.
No, you're great. Don't worry about it, boss.
Oh man, no. Like I was saying though, guys, we're getting into the holiday season, which means we're going to be getting close to the end of season 18 as a whole. And a lot of the league is really finalizing who's top of their tiers, and it's kind of wild. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's been a rough race.
Yeah, it's pretty tight at the top, man. A lot of these, right? It's gonna be fascinating to see how they end up playing out.
Yeah, and this is always the fun part of the season because you got divisional matchups coming back up, so you get a little bit of rivalry action. You've got the race for the top seed. You got the race for the dreaded playoff line. So, your option to sneak in right now is now. So that trade deadline's coming up. So there's going to be a lot of scrambling towards the back half, and it's fun to be at the scary part of the rat race.
For sure. And speaking of that rat race, let's go ahead and we'll get these top fives kicked off. We'll start with Premier here. Sitting squarely in first place, do we no patience.
Like,
Sitting
why isn't it here?
Sitting squarely in first place, we've got the Crooked Capos, who are 35-9. You've got the Hurricanes in second at 29-15, and then you've got a three-way tie for third place with the Viperfish, the Gummy Bears, and Interstellar, who are all 27-17. Uh, Not a lot of change, honestly. It's been pretty consistent. I mean, we've seen the Viperfish and Gummy Bears really clawing up the charts here, but it's really surprising that the Tarbage Grucks, I don't want to say they're having a late season collapse, but they're really struggling to get their footing now, falling pretty far.
Prada doesn't get to play the game if he's grounded, so
He's
just a
That's why
couple.
he's not playing?
Yeah, or it was either that or like didn't go to school that day or something like it. So yeah, for the most part.
I mean, that's high school athletics. You don't go to school, you don't get to play the match. So,
Yeah, it's true.
Dude, I just imagine trading for someone who's supposed to lead you to the promised land, and then you get a text, "Hey man, I got grounded. I can't play tonight."
Yeah, right.
You gotta figure it out.
I would say that was what was it? That was Jim John like 10 seasons ago for me. Joins my team. He's on he's on vacation. Doesn't tell me. He's grounded that week. He doesn't tell me. I'm like, oh no.
Oh no.
Love Jim John, but he was interesting from a management standpoint. He was
Well,
absolutely broken in the tier, though.
I don't want to beat this tier down too much. We do have the deep dive coming on later. So, Mr. Rob, do you want to throw us right into your tier?
Yeah, it's also Moose's tier for what it's worth.
Look,
not
anybody
worth
that's
Yeah,
not
right. Fair enough. Moving us into Master, you have the Heinous Henchman in first at 29-15. Two-way tie for second between the Tempest and the Eggplants. Shout out the homies. 28-16. Then 3 games back, you have a tie of 25-19 between the Feta Foragers and the Care Bears. And you're starting to really see some division in here, right? Like there's a lot of parity still. 25, 25, 24, 23, 22 win totals, right? So a lot of close things. But you see a few teams at the top starting to push above, right? 3 of the top 4 teams are the only 3 teams with at least 13 wins the last 5 match days. And the top 3 and top 4, I guess top 3 are separating themselves with win totals too, right? So like you see the consistency starting to come out.
Yeah, well, speaking of consistency, one of the master teams that's really kind of caught me off guard. So, Basilisks for a while in our top fives were sitting squarely either in third or fourth, just hanging in there. But they've also been falling down the charts. They're 8-12 in the last 5 match days, which is not a great indication of what the future holds because they are a .501 strength of schedule coming up. I think there's a chance that you might see one of these teams that are sitting at 21-23 climb back in and potentially steal that playoff spot.
Snail. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I
I had
think stagnant
something in my
snails
throat.
right here really prime position to make a push for that playoff spot. Nobody better in the tier, from what I've seen, than their captain. So
Yeah, good old Chips. He's an absolute monster out there.
took a game off some GC3s with the Champ 1 teammate.
There you go. But the other thing too that's interesting to know, I know you said like 8 and 12, which over 5 match days honestly isn't too terrible, but outside of say your bottom 3 teams for Master, most of those records are all relatively close. It's 8 and 12, 12 and 4, 11 and 9. Towards the top end, like Rob said, that's where you're starting to get the pull away. You got, Syndicate's just been an absolute
Yeah.
leaping tear. The Tempests have gone a little bit more stagnant.
Not like the snails.
Right, exactly. The snails are we're slowly going. We're getting there.
Oh yes, sir.
And then what's it? The garden and the cheese people, the cheese guild, they aren't moldy. They're moving. They're getting
Oh
up there.
They're
But,
feta forging their way to victory.
I am feta.
You're
You
fed
fed
up
up
just
with
say
these
you're
puns?
fed up. Yeah,
fed up,
there's
I'm
literally
fed up
there
with
for you.
this shit.
But nah.
Yeah, that third place team is egg planted in their spot. Let me say that. No.
Okay.
All right. Before
Is
we
it
keep get
is it
us
elite
Moose,
time?
get us into elite.
Yeah, I got you. I got you.
This is
Assuming
why I
that
try to-
graphic shows up. There it is. Yeah, exactly. I don't have my own. I'm watching the stream. I want to be ready with the people, all right? Anyways, what we're gonna ignore the bad math on that. But we got the Pixel Picassos, 33 and 11. We got Midnight right behind them, 29 and 15. Gelato, also 29 and 15th. Azathoth, they won't go away. They're looking for their third time around, and they are up there, 29 and 15. And we got the Gatly Goombas apparently. I believe that's Ghastly Goombas in 5th at 28 and 16.
I had to take away their S because they're definitely not on a streak right now. They're 10 and 10. They are struggling right now.
You could have just given them another L instead of taking away their S.
Oof, that's tough. and I was waiting for it. It didn't take more than like 10 seconds. You got Greg.
I don't want to
Greg
yeah,
and
but I
Greg's
don't
in
want to
chat.
get on
Yeah, I
it
was
too
gonna
much
say the
because we are
same
going to
thing.
get to that for people who don't know about it later on.
Listen, yeah, that's a topic for a little later in this, later in the podcast. But Elite Chat is
It's something else.
how do I put it? Yeah, Elite Chat is spicy, I guess is the best way to put it.
It's the tier for it.
It really is. I kind of missed the banter. It was great. But some interesting things to point out. We were talking before the podcast started. Lunar playoff hunt. Your 4 division winners. They're up there. They're chilling. They got a couple games back on everybody in the wild card. The trouble is everybody in the wild card spot is all sitting at 25 and 19, and I mean darn near everybody. There's 6 teams all tied for that. Granted, there's still plenty of match play to go for Elite, but yeah, nobody's out of it just yet. Well, not officially.
No, but
anyway.
that's
That
is
Shout
a
out.
wild.
Speaking of the garden, let's
Oh
go.
no!
That
Listen,
is
trade
a wild point though. Like 25 and 19, you've got 6 teams that are tied there.
Yeah.
Normally, being above 500, being even one game above, will potentially get you a playoff spot. But imagine being the Anglers. You get like a 4-0 sweep, you'd be 25-23. If you're in the opposite, you're in solar playoffs. That's a playoff spot. But if
Yeah.
you get a 4-0 sweep, it's like, yeah, it doesn't matter. It's not
Not
enough.
only is it a playoff spot, but in Solar Ember, that's division lead right now, right?
Yeah.
So you have 2 teams, 6 games over 500 out of playoffs in Lunar, and something's got to give, right? Like it's not all going to be tiebreakers. We got now is the time for teams to really make that push and see who's going to earn that spot. It's
I just
really
realized
really
3 are
tight.
from Lunar Ember.
Yeah.
3 of those 25 and 19 teams are from Lunar Emperor.
And 2 of them are from Lunar Ocean.
That's gonna be rough.
We gotta mute you in video, I think.
Yeah, probably. Thank you,
who
Hud.
in video?
I switched up my input. All right, cool. But yeah, long story short, no, it's crazy because yeah, in solar it's about as straightforward as it gets. The team that's above 500, the Menthol, 23 and 21, they're in playoffs. Dead even at 22-22, they're slightly out. And then you got the 6 teams that are well above 500, that are all fighting for those last 4 spots apparently. And there are 6 of them doing it, so that's just kind of funny.
Yeah, it's real tight. I don't know if I've ever seen team 6 games above 500 miss the playoff or be out of playoffs at this point. Let alone if these teams all continue to have this record, right? Like that would just feel so bad. Like 6 to 10 games above 500 not making playoffs. Like, come on now, that'd be crazy.
Dude, I was 2 games above playoffs a couple seasons ago, and I didn't make it. And I or 2 games above 500, and I didn't make it, and that hurt. I couldn't imagine 6 or 7. That would that would just crush the mental.
Yeah.
Right, because at least 1 or 2, it's like, okay, yeah, we had a good season, we just weren't quite good enough. But yeah, if you're like well above 500, then you start asking yourself, it's like, all right, who's drawn up these conferences, man?
Yeah, yeah.
I know last season Lunar, I think across the board, Lunar had a lot of those issues. Lunar seemed to be cooking where Solar was a lot more straightforward. So I'm wondering if that trend's going to be the same this season, or if some of the division conference redraws affected anything.
It's possible. I think, though, that pretty well wraps up Elite. Let's go ahead and jump into Vet and kind of keep things rolling along here. So, looking at Vet, we are looking at the first place Sea Devils are sitting at 34 and 10. In second place, you've got Possessed. They are 31 and 13. And third place, after taking a little bit of a speed bump this last week, Need for Speed sitting at 30 and 14. Fourth place, Blues, 29 and 15. And then a 2-way tie for fifth place. You've got Cthulhu and Gorillas sitting at 28 and 16.
I mean, that's a lot of 30-win teams. Right?
That is.
Like, you look at Elite, there's 1. You look at Master, there's 0. You look at Prem, there's 1.
There's 1.
And then you look at Vet, and you have 3, right? I get it's bigger than Master and Prem, but Elite, you only got 1 too, right? So 34 wins, 31 wins, 30 wins, 29, 28. You got a few teams starting to really push at the top, and obviously it's led by those Sea Devils, right? 34 and 10. It's nothing to play with. That's a serious record, and if they continue to play like this pushing forward, they're probably going to be your favorites come playoff time.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about these aqua themed teams absolutely ripping these massive records in regular season. Those gosh darn Sharks, I'm telling you. And now we got
both of them too, man. The Hammerheads and the Great Whites.
Now we got some Sea Devils. Shout out Tony Della Torre, because he was the old OG ocean
Abyss
dweller.
guy.
Yeah. So that video's still in my head rent free. I don't know
the playoff one.
A playoff one.
Yeah, I know the one.
I think Hud, you might have been around for that. Do you remember that? Yeah, if we could ever find that, that might be a absolute fun one to throw up on one of these podcasts.
I have it.
That's something for the archives, but my goodness. Anyways,
what's pretty wild is the Sea Devils and Possessed really aren't slowing down at this point. They have the best last of 5 out of the top, what is that, 20? 20, actually, it's the best in the entire tier. They're both 15 and 5. And they've got at least the Sea Devils have a pretty easy strength of schedule coming up. There is a good chance that they're going to run away with this tier.
Well, 15-5 is actually a lower pace than they're on for the season so far. So I go them, right? Like if they're going to keep that up, if they're going to have that easier schedule coming up, who's to stand in their way, right? Their future strength of schedule is not the weakest, but it's also definitely not the strongest. And moving forward, that really does play a factor in those extra 2, 3, 4 games you're able to get. And if they're already starting with a 3-game lead in first, like that could be what this team needs to just solidify that number 1 spot. And worth noting, they're 23-5 in conference. So lunar teams against them are 11, or they're 11-5 against lunar teams, and 23-5 against. Other way around. But basically, the ones in their own conference, they're really good against, and the ones that they played in the other conference, they've struggled a little bit with. So maybe they kind of walk to the finals. But it's 11-5 isn't too crazy. So some solar teams really pushing ahead on that.
You know what team from Solar isn't pushing ahead right now? Singularity, 22-22, currently sitting atop their division. They've got Pushwalkers and Typhoons both behind them within 2 games. That is going to be tough to see that you've got a team that is on the cusp of being effectively, swapped out and pushed out of the playoff run.
Now, the one thing I will give them, now obviously like I said, there's still plenty of room to grow, but they're 10-2 in division. And guess who they get to play the next at least the last 3 match days? All their good friends in the division. So if they can maintain that original pace, even if they have a rough, even if they have a rough match day 12, match day 13, all they got to do is just, do what they did first, week 3 through week 5, and just kick butt in division. All you got to do is make it to the dance, and then anything can happen. Like them Sea Devils, I don't know if I want to curse them on stream or not, but but 1 seeds don't always make it past the first round, especially the ones that have monster records. All of a sudden, a 8th seed comes up out of nowhere and bites them. So maybe that's a manatee. I don't know. The manatees. They're they're real tough.
Yeah, they got
crazy.
those teeth.
Yeah. They struggle with boats. They're real mean. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, Rob, you ready for it?
Oh yeah. Let's take us into the tier where I'm probably going to end up actually homering the most.
I love it.
Oh
God. In first place, you got the Carrots at 32-12 sole possession there. We'll be touching on that, I'm sure. Right behind them, you have the Vikings at 30-14. 29-15, you have the Matza Marauders, and then a 2-way tie at 28-16, rounding out your top 5 are Cursed and Necrotic Nerds. And I would like to say that when the Carrots were, I believe, like the 12th, 13th, 14th ranked team, I was on the podcast talking about how I think they're extremely underrated record-wise, and they're probably the best team in the tier. And since I've said that, they are 17-3, just whooping everyone in their path. There are a few teams who can really stand against them, as we've seen from the Vikings with the 2-2, the Matza Marauders 3-1 them on stream. But those are the top teams in the tier, and the Carrots are just taking it away with the guys that aren't at the very top. So I'm excited to see if they continue to push forward, or if other teams also make those strides to be really competitive at the top of this division.
You know what they say: if you can't beat them, join them. So I'll do a little bit of homering. For not my guys. But no, I would say shout out to the wife. She's rocking a couple of strong teams the last couple tiers, so they're doing well. Rob's garden is doing some good stuff. I don't know what the retention rate was, but I know I helped out with the Sovereign Rival team last season, so maybe something stuck over there. But yeah.
If you don't mind, I do want to jump in real quick.
Of course.
Rob, You were right, man. I mean, they were 15-9 when we talked about it last time, I
Yeah.
think. And the fact that over the last 4 match days they've gone 17-3 is just wild. They're getting hot at the right time. It looks incredible. They haven't had an easy strength of schedule, almost at 0.500 across the board.
hmm
And I mean, there's a really good chance that they're gonna at least break, mid 40, upper 40 record here. Like we could be seeing our not our hammerheads, they're
Yeah.
not going to be
Yeah.
like wickedly dominant, but they'll be at least pretty darn dominant for their tier.
Well, piggybacking off what both you and Moose said, the motto of the day and the motto of Rival is if you can't beat them, join them. The Carrots and Polaris were the two teams that made it the farthest against the Hammerheads last season. Carrots lost to them in finals, and Polaris took them to game 5, got reverse swept in semis. And you take 2 players from one team, one from the other. You take one of the best players in Chally from last season, put him on a roster. It's going to have a lot of success when you don't have a 60-win monster in front of you. The other thing that I would like to say about this tier before we move forward is that you see the top 3 teams are from Lunar, and then the next 4 are from Solar, and the next 3 are from Lunar, and the next 3 are from Solar, the next 3 are from Lunar. So you're seeing a big clump of tiers within the tier developing. And worth noting that the Matza Marauders and Carrots are actually in the same division. That's your number 1 and number 3 team right now. And so one of those teams is going to go into the playoffs as a wild card. That 4 seed, whichever is the lowest amount of wins for winning a division in Lunar, is going to have a really, really tough first round matchup in that one.
Yeah, I don't envy them. That's gonna be tough no matter how you go about it. And what was it? I think your Carrots have the Wolf Spiders next, as well as the Fangtooth. So they got a relatively lower table team. Then they got a playoff contention team. And then they get to go fight against their good old division rivals.
Yeah.
So it now I guess that's one potentially scary thing for the Carrots is while they came out with a decent record through division, they were actually close to even in their division.
Mhm.
So, I don't know if it's just, who's in that division, but they gave them trouble the first time around. We'll see if that holds true the second time around. So,
Yeah. I mean, you see the Matza Marauders, right? Right below them. They're actually 5-7 in division, and they're 29-15 overall. And they
Right.
3-1 the Carrots, which means that they lost to a different team in the division. So
Yeah.
that Lunar Mountain is looking to be really, really tough overall, with the worst team in there being 20-24.
Right, which
That's
isn't it's not even bad.
yeah. I mean, that's what 1 spot out of playoffs in Solar. Like
Yeah.
I mean, there's shaping up to be a lot of really interesting storylines in Rival this season.
Oh yeah, that Mountain Division, I wouldn't be shocked at all because right now, currently, they got 3 teams going to playoffs, 2 wild cards, and obviously a division leader. That may change, but it also might not change. So, yeah, it's something fun for everybody. Rivals, we got some rivalries. I don't know what to tell you.
Oh, that was a good one. Also worth
It
noting,
is
Matza
something.
Marauders would be the number 1 seed in Solar, and they're a wild card in Lunar.
Well, before we get like too far into Rival, we do have a deep dive coming up ahead at some point in the future where we'll actually break down the tier and talk
Yeah.
about a lot of the interesting facts you guys are given. Let's talk about the tier. Rob, you said earlier 30-win teams, 3 of them was kind of wild. Moose, you want to show everybody
Yeah.
what Chally looks like right now?
Well, I'm not going to show anybody anything. That's HUD's job, but I will tell them
that's
about it.
crazy.
Slice baby. Can't can't touch this. They're up at 33-11. Although Abyss might be able to. They're only a game behind, 32-12. The oh my god, my goons. They're tied for 3rd right now, 31-13 with the Penne Patrol. That's a dangerous name on stream.
Yeah.
And then you got the Toucans not so far behind them at 30-14. Challenger scares the daylights out of me. And it's mostly because I have probably the 4 that team on paper. If you were to go look at any previous cut notes for any of the players on that team, you'd probably cry. as a manager, but somehow it works. I I gotta say I'm proud of those guys. We got a prospect promo. We've got basically another prospect promo. I'm gonna homer a little bit, yeah, and then we got Oki, who survived his 2-day match suspension and is just killing it out there, and Norcho is providing some stability to that team. Yeah, Charlie's got a bunch of 30-win teams. There's what was it in
Well, here's the wild part, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's multiple 30-win teams. Slice Baby and Abyss, the 1 and 2 team for this tier, are both from Solar Ocean.
Yeah.
Imagine being 32 and 12 and you're not your division leader. Like, that is just wild to talk about. Like, they have a really good chance to take Slice Baby. Cowtooth, one of the starters from Slice Baby, accrued a 2-match day suspension this last week. They've skidded a little bit. They went 13 and 7 so far. So with him rejoining the lineup, we'll see what this is going to rebound with. But it's just wild that you have two teams duking it out, not just for the top of the tier, but they're still fighting for top of division.
Yeah, and while you talk about that, where in Solar Ocean, right, you have that second seed. The wild card is 32 and 12. There's our division leader in Lunar that's 19 and 25. So this team, it has 13 fewer wins than Abyss and is a higher seed in their conference.
Yeah,
There's
so
Lunar Cloud is they have 14, 17, 18, and 19 wins respectively.
That 14-win team though is still in it.
Yeah,
Like, they're mathematically not Olympia.
I mean, they're tied for third to last in the tier after what, 12 match days? 13 match days, whatever. And they're what, 5 games out of playoffs? That's crazy.
They're 5 games back. They still have 8 to play. So, like, it's not a highly probable situation, but it is mathematically still on the table.
Especially because they play those division matches, right? Like, if there's any way to make that comeback, it's these next few match days in division.
Right, because you got 4 match days, so 16 games overall. So like if I'm, again, this is where you start cursing the schedule makers. Like if you're Yig, you are 13 games back, which means you'd have to 4-0 every single day, and you'd have to make sure that the zombies at the Cryas don't touch a win. Meanwhile, if you're the Threshers or the Tarantulas, all you got to do is catch 5. So you could potentially you could 3-1 2 days and then like 2-2 the other days, and you could potentially still manage to wander in there. So sometimes the schedule gods do you a favor and sometimes they don't. If if you're Abyss, I don't know. Actually, I guess across the board, if you're the 5 seed this playoff in this tier, 5 seed's gonna have a lot of fun. One way or another. I don't have high hopes for whoever winds up being the 4 seed.
In either conference, yeah.
In either conference. So yeah, if you're doing the brackets, there's my very hot take on an upset spot. Right, 5 seed taking out the 4 seed, never. Crazy.
That's crazy.
So,
what's wild is this is not the only tier that has 2 from the exact same conference really right on top of each other. Speaking of which, I was gonna say let's roll into our next one. Prospects.
Oh my goodness.
Oh man, what a transition.
Looking at first place, Darkness, 29 to 15. Second place, you've got Whiskey Business. Actually, 3-way tie for second place. You've got Whiskey Business, Sparks, and Spaghetti Scouts, all sitting at 28 and 16. And then fifth place, Pepperoni Pizza at 27 and 17.
Listen, get their name right. They're the Spaghetti Sparks, all right? They are killing it.
Spaghetti Sparks. You got it. Look. I made that today, man, all right?
I don't blame you. I find it hilarious. But I might have also had a couple of cans on my desk, and anything's funny to me at the moment. So,
hey, football was on. I was distracted.
That's fair. Go team, whatever team you support. Go that team. Unless you're the Ravens.
HUD, we don't have to keep showing my failures here.
Yeah.
Oh God. But Rob, I gotta bring it up. We've
Yeah.
talked about it before. I gotta mention this is not the time for a certain team to be potentially slowing down after, adversity was placed on their season.
I don't know, man. They're there. They got 2 teams in their division now within 3 games of them. Right? Pepperoni Pizza 1 game back. Skeletons 3 games back. Like they're. I don't know, man. I don't want to call them. I don't want to keep calling them out. I feel bad. I feel partially responsible.
I say if you're gonna do it properly. Finish them off. Don't just.
Yeah, you know what? They're done
while
for.
they're
Actually.
down.
Spaghetti Scouts missing playoffs. Call it right now. Clip it. Toss it to the team. Let them know. Not even making playoffs. Going from 1 spot to 8
Not
spot
even
out of here.
making playoffs.
Oh,
I mean,
man,
listen. I mean, look. Right. Hot take, absolutely. But you look at what they're going to be dealing with these
Dude,
next
there's
few
only like
seasons.
2. There's
There-
only
yep.
like what, a
Yeah.
match day? 2?
There's 2, right?
Yep, 2 left to go.
And they play someone in their division. Who are they playing? They end up playing because they're in a really tough spot.
They got
right?
You're talking scouts, right?
Yeah, black tips and then inert anemones. And okay, black tips they escape with. There's 5 teams per division. Okay, I thought there were 4, and I saw the other 3 were all at least 500. I do know that the inert anemones just made a big roster move, and I think that they are going to be really scary if they can push for that playoff spot. But black tips they might handle for what it's worth. So actually, I can't make that bet. Darn it.
I would say I suspect they'll get through, but again, too, getting through doesn't guarantee anything. Then again, also placing first doesn't guarantee anything. So, like I said, you get a ticket to the dance, you're in. You can do something.
You're in the arena.
Yeah, what you do after that is up to you, right? If you get to the punch bowl one too many times and win a championship, good job. Sometimes the bastard just kicks you out right away. I don't know what to tell you. But
I'm gonna make the easiest prediction of my life ever. Sparks are probably gonna finish out as the best team in Prospect, right? Like can we just hand them the title, right?
I mean they don't have the easiest. Who do they play coming up? For
They
the next
play
couple.
Backrug next, who are 20 and 24.
Yeah, but we all
and
know
then
about
they
Tech 4.
play.
Yeah,
And then they play Envy, who are 24 and 20 right now.
I mean,
it's not the easiest
yeah,
schedule, but like they've been 15 and 5. They've been hot since they acquired Slolo. Like they've just been on fire.
Yeah, who do Whiskey Business and the other team and first play each other in the last couple match days? Darkness.
Whiskey Business plays Darkness this next week.
Yeah. So I mean, assuming that one of them doesn't 4-0, right? I think it's a fairly safe bet. It's probably going to be a 2-2 coming from the 2 top teams in the tier right now, and that's going to open the door for Sparks to move ahead and take that spot with a little bit easier competition moving forward.
Yeah, and heck, even if Darkness and Whiskey Business 2-2, they probably don't care none because that'll qualify both of them.
That said, it'll be hard for the Sparks to take that first spot after getting 4-0'd by the inert enemies, right, Moose?
Good question. Good on them. I didn't.
No, it hasn't happened yet.
No, we don't play the Sparks. We play the Scouts.
Oh, you darn it! Damn it!
Yeah. Backrug plays the.
I'm trying
Sparks.
to. Never mind. I got my wires crossed.
That's all good. Sometimes when you play with electricity, the sparks will get you.
Oh my
god. I say and also too, I gotta ask Tech, what's a Backrug? But
make it a hashtag.
It's been a meme for a while. But yeah, you can never tell Tech to get that game on stream. It'll be a 2-2 guaranteed. But yeah, I mean, what's it? Obviously, I like the trade that my guys made, so maybe they got a strong shot at maybe making a push. That being said, the teams that they play, it's not
Tough.
necessarily in their hands, right? Because even if they do well, if the other teams that they aren't playing, come on, camera, you can do it. If the teams they aren't playing, show up and show out, then they still might not be able to grab it. But
I mean,
Funnel Webs and Backrug aren't out of it either. Any one
for
of
what
those
it's
teams.
worth, I mean, Envy is the team that's playing the Sparks the final match day. That's the team that's right above the Inert and Enemies. And your Inert and Enemies, I can't say it 5 times fast, play the Barbarians, who are in dead last, right? So
Right.
if they can pull this out, like the team that you need to lose is playing the number 1 team, and the team that you need to beat is the last team. So if
Right.
there were ever a way for things to fall, to make that push, it would be something similar to this. That said, you got to make it through the Sparks, right? But a 2-2 in that matchup most likely keeps your hopes alive. So
Yeah. Yeah. So I told my guys, like, listen, average 3-1. And I said
Yep.
that before last match day, and they held up. They're already holding up that portion of the deal. They got the 4-0. So if they can 2-2 against they're playing the Scouts. So if they can 2-2 the Scouts and then do 3-1 or better against the
Barbarians,
yeah, then they got a shot. That's all I can say.
they'll definitely put themselves in a position to not control their destiny, right? But at least maybe get a ticket to that arena that we're talking about. Also worth
Yeah.
mentioning that the playoff line in Lunar is 2 games above the playoff line in Solar. Could be something to note.
Yep, those misfits, they might be able to sneak in. So could Undead, so could the demons. They're not that far off. So,
This definitely
that
sounds like a lot of great talk for a really good deep dive at some point.
Yeah.
We really kind of got to roll through these tiers, fellas.
don't let me cook. I'll go to the fridge. You guys get us to the next tier.
Works with me, man.
Well, this is gonna be a quick one, anyways.
Is this me or you, boss?
This is you, buddy. This is
Perfect.
you.
Moving us into contender. What a surprise. You have Dagon at 37-7 in sole possession of first. Below them, you have a 2-way tie between Gluttony and Wisps at 31-13, and then a 7-game drop off into a 4-way tie at 24-20 between the Gallery Guild, Cheese Pizza, Pastry Pioneers, and Dread. Boss, I think you see 3 teams with a chance to win this tier. That's not true, right? Every team that makes it to the playoffs has a real chance to win this tier. But I think you see 3 teams really separating themselves to a different degree. 7 games between 3rd and 4th is nuts.
I think you really do, and I've got some really interesting math for you that I kind of broke down based upon strength of schedule upcoming. That'll give us some playoff options, but we're gonna kind of roll through Tendy a little bit. I don't want to hammer it too much because we are going to get into this later tonight. I don't think Moose is going to be back in time, so I can just
He's here.
He's here.
Listen, there's a reason we name my franchise the Speed Demons, all right? We can get to the fridge and the bathroom within 30 seconds, guaranteed.
That was unbelievable speed. Something you'll never see from Moose on the pitch, but
Definitely not.
Well,
the positioning is always perfect.
Do you want to take us through Ammy then?
Oh, I got you. We rolling Ammy?
For sure.
All right. So amateur, this is fun. And by fun, I mean it's almost locked up. You got Nightfall in first place, 36-8. There's a shot they don't lose double-digit games, which would be heckin' impressive. You got the Sloth, one of my favorite sins, 32-12. Surprise! They're right behind them, 31-13. Bunts of Steel, 25-19 in fourth place. A little bit of a drop off there, but they're not out of it. And then Sacrificed, fifth place, chilling, dead even. Love it. So, and what I mean by locked up is I mean quite literally 3 of those top 3 teams, they're set. They can rest their starters, they can hang up the sticks, give their thumbs a break. They don't have to worry about any sort of qualification. which amateur, if we look at their schedule, they still have 2 more match days to go. So time to get their fourths involved, or
Yeah.
start. I don't know, start practicing their flip resets or something. These lower tier players are insane. Oh, sometimes it's
They
crazy.
are. Yeah. Oh, it's time for
Mhm.
them to stop practicing their flip resets and start practicing the other things. Is I think what
Right.
you're getting at.
Probably, because sometimes the mechanics are there and the brain is not.
Yeah.
That being said, it's still a fairly hotly contested race for the playoff line. Bunts of Steel are in a little bit better position than the rest of them. 2 match days ago, they only need 5 more wins to clinch. So a 2-2 and a 3-1, they're in it. But the rest of them, Sacrifice, House Salads, Cathilla, they're all magic numbers, 8, 9 wins, right? And Alfredo Army not too far behind. Praetorians too, technically not out of it. A 4-0 will get them
And
there.
it's wild, right? Because like Nightfall, they were 17-7 to start off the season. They looked good. They didn't look that good though. They didn't look like
Yeah.
19-1 through the back five,
Yeah.
steamrolling teams like it's nothing. I mean, this is the perfect time to get hot. With only 2 match days left, you're going to go into playoffs this warm, this ready to roll, dude. It's gonna be a potential blowout.
Well, I think
Yeah.
what you see is we had these indications earlier on, right? Where we talked about why the Spaghetti Scouts in a different tier might have been fraudulent, or why other teams may not be, right? And you're looking at these numerical markers for, are these players putting up a bunch of shots? Are they doing the things consistently that win games? Or are they winning by one due to a pop off here or there? Are they just doing a couple things, right? But what you're seeing is these teams are getting production from every single spot. All 4 players on Nightfall right now have a 66 plus RPV, right? Like first, second, third, fourth, whichever roster they run, they're putting up pressure, they're playing defense, they're passing, and I mean that's how you go 19-1 over 20 matches, right? Like you get production from everywhere. Because if one player has an off night, someone's right there to pick up the slack.
Yep.
For sure. Speaking
That's
of
all.
people who are picking up the slack, I want to talk to a certain someone that we've got kind of waiting around who's been picking up a lot of the slack in the background for his API on the website. Oh man,
I got it. I got it.
I beat you to it.
No, I beat you to it. I did that.
Monty,
Hello.
how's it going, my man?
Good. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. Just wrapped up talking about the top 5 tiers, or the
Nice.
top 5 for each tier. Well, speaking of top 5 for each tier, let's talk about top 5 admins. Let's talk about Monty sitting number 1 as he's been working a lot diligently on this API. Which I'm not gonna lie, you told me once exactly what you were doing, and I totally spaced out to the exact detail.
Yeah. So, myself and other members of the dev committee are all working on a slew of programs for RSC to make things better, faster, easier to both run and play in. The one I'm working on is the RSC API, and so what that is basically just um, a replacement for all of the many Google Sheets that anyone who's in franchise management or um, is curious about their stats has seen. All of there's like upwards, I would say close to probably like, depending on who you ask, 50 to 100 sheets that exist somewhere within this league in some form or fashion. So what I'm doing is writing an application that will basically remove the need for all of those, while still making it accessible for people who want to use Sheets who aren't programmers, and basically use that to run the whole league. Something that we can build, our new bot in. Something you can build a bot for your franchise in. Something you can pay somebody else to build a bot for your franchise in if you don't do that kind of thing. That's pretty much it. It's going to solve a lot of the problems and complaints that people have with getting things done and asking for new things that we're like, well, we just can't do that because we're on 50 Google Sheets and it's really hard for us to make all that stuff work together.
So
That sounds like so much fun.
Yeah.
Fun's a way to put it.
So I guess I got a question for you, Monty. Are you a programmer by trade or a programmer by hobby, or how did you come about poking around in the back end of things here?
Yeah, I'm a programmer by trade. I do automation development for my job right now. So I'm used to this kind of thing.
Sounds like fun. Can you automate me some like TikTok money, or is that something I'm gonna have to go to
No,
like
If
AI
I
for?
hit
yeah,
GIF your game clip, can it auto upload to TikTok with an AI generated caption?
sure. Like, don't ask me to do it though.
now, honestly, Monty, I was talking with somebody in stats, and they were saying so currently they're spending like 2 hours a week, right? Just hammering out a lot of the issues that are going on, and just after each match night, they're just sitting there, really just trying to get through everything, update all the sheets. So, with what you're saying though, this should like drastically reduce the workload, right? This will make it to where instead of it being a 2 hour nature per night, it'll be more like 10, 15 minutes or so.
Yeah. Stats life's going to be easier. Transactions life's going to be easier. Numbers, I'm really sorry to have to tell you this if anybody's listening. It's only going to make your lives a tiny bit easier, but not a ton. It's like transactions right now. The majority of time when you see a player transaction, some person in our Discord has gone and done a bunch of manual verification for it. I've already written code that automates all of transactions. So all they have to do is go into Discord, type a command, and it'll say, yeah, that transaction's good, or no, that transaction's bad. No GMs having to double check, no
Nice.
players having to, not be able to play in matches tonight, no TMs having to search through Discord to hopefully find a specific player's Discord ID. It just drastically simplifying the whole process. Stats is the same thing. Many of you already know that we have the bot that Nully, may he rest in peace, wrote to automate the replay pulling from ball chasing. We've added on to that by making a process that takes all the data out of ball chasing and puts it into stats for players. So, we always harp on having the right name when you're playing in games. That becomes more important because it's fully automated now rather than the people in stats double checking. But, instead of them having to go through, make sure every replay is in the right spot, they just double check a couple replays. And then if there's any names, they can fix those if they're not correct at all, right? So it goes from them having to pull any matches that are missing to basically just making sure all the matches are in the right place after the bot, and then clicking a couple of arrows to have all the wrong names fixed. So it's going to save them a whole bunch of time. It's going to be easier for them to do, and it's all automated. So the pulling of stats process and updating happens automatically, which means they don't have to upload it to the website because it just kind of falls into place.
Sounds sick.
Yeah,
That sounds really cool.
it's most excellent too, because I gotta put a hand up, as one of my teammates would say, because I've been an absolute pain in the rear end for stats, especially these last few match days. Oh, 100%. It's
not
now.
you.
Oh, of course me. Now, granted, it's me by proxy. It's my players that have been causing fits, which by consequence has turned into me causing fits. So I gotta personally apologize to stats because I've been a pain in the rear, and they've done a couple things to accommodate me, so I gotta appreciate that from them. So shout out to Ray. I know you guys have been working hard. Transactions, if you want to check my channel, you guys are sleeping on one of my things, so if you guys can hurry that up real quick.
Bro.
Oh my God.
Oh man.
Oh, what's it? Chips told me to call. Chips told me to get on them, so I figured the podcast is the best way to do it. No, but
That's true.
no, one, Monty, appreciate the heck out of everything you've been doing. That's cool as heck, right? Because yeah, if we could make our committees volunteer, I'm gonna emphasize volunteer work, 15 minutes a night instead of 2 hours a night. Like, if you're volunteering for 2 hours a night, you better be doing it for like a college, for like a college essay,
Getting paid, dude.
or
Something.
yeah, or getting paid. Turn it into a nonprofit, will you? Like, see if you can get like your House representative to fund stats. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it's important that I say too, like it's not just me, it's the whole team, the whole dev committee. Like Nick working tirelessly on the bot, Blister working on the dev league and all of the different back end things like the stream stuff that we use for running the stream. It's a very huge group effort, and so I I want to call out all the other dev committee members who are working really hard for the league and who are doing it, just like stats for free. TMs too. You might be mad at them for not doing your transaction, but they work hard over there. So it's our goal and the whole reason we built this committee in the first place was to make everybody else's life easier, and we're getting to do that, and it's awesome.
Mm-hmm. And
For sure.
Does this mean the app will work?
It's funny that you say that.
Isn't that a different dev?
Yeah, so that's Shane wrote that, and the short answer is no. The long answer is
maybe.
Great question.
Yeah, Shane's got to update for the current season if that's the case.
Yeah,
you think by the time the next season comes around, we'll have the app updated for this season?
It's a great question. I'd have to reach out to Shane and ask him, to be honest with you. Last I heard, he was already integrating the API into the app so that he wouldn't have to manually update it every time.
Ooh.
But I don't know where he's at progress-wise on that, or if he's had time to. He got pretty busy, so I'm not sure what his current status is.
I know nothing about coding, but would your API system thing, combining all the sheets, help that guy's API system of the app?
Yep. Oh yeah, 100%.
Nice. Let's go.
Rob, I love it. I love the enthusiasm.
Hey, look, I'm excited. I don't have to know how any of it works. I just think it's dope that it works and is growing.
All I know, give these guys a ton of props. I've dabbled in code. I did a little bit of like game development as just like a side hobby, and I've wanted to cry more times than I can fathom.
Yeah.
So the fact that these guys are able to put something together that's A, functional, and B, idiot proof, or relatively idiot proof as far as I can tell.
If you can tell that it's idiot proof, Moose, then it is idiot proof.
It's
tap in real quick here.
Oof. I'll take that.
Trying to ask Monty a question. Let me just tap in real quick.
Get into it, boss.
Monty, I have a couple Excel sheets that I've been making that pull information directly from some of the spreadsheets that RSC already currently uses. How would I, as an outside user, utilize this API or utilize this website to update my own spreadsheets for my own personal use?
Yeah, so that's absolutely something that when we were, originally working on this was something that we considered. And so basically what you'll have is, so the API is not really a website itself, right? Vengeance is working on sort of the front end website, and what he's got looks really, really cool, and I'm really excited about it. He's waiting on me for some things so we could show it off to everybody, but the general gist of it is like we prepped for people who are only going to have sheets or want to use sheets to do their own thing. So what we have is all the API endpoints that return some set of data like teams or tiers or stats. They all have CSV exporting versions. So basically you get a URL, you add format equals CSV to the end of the link, you go to your Google Sheet and you do import CSV, and then you just put in that link and bam.
Dope. Well,
so Bas, what you're telling me is you're gonna have to pay him later to tell you to do that again, right?
Yeah. Or we can just clip it in the stream and then replay it when we need instructions.
Yeah.
I'm a big spreadsheet nerd, and that was the fear of mine, right? Because I have a spreadsheet that calculates the closest matchups in RSC on a week by week basis. And that was my fear, is I was going to have to either start doing that spreadsheet by hand every week, because it's currently automated, and I don't want to change that.
Yeah.
But this will work. This will be great. This will work.
Yeah.
One thing that we'll probably do too is make a couple of like utility spreadsheets that just pull that information out of the database for you, and then you should just be able to import that. Like people expect information in a certain way, and there's no reason why we can't help make it that way instead of forcing everybody to like fix all of their Google Sheets all at the same time. That would be just unfair.
It is what it is.
Oh, you were a godsend. User friendly is the most sought after coding product ever. Whereas there's a huge difference between dev friendly and user friendly, and some of these users are need more help than others, to say the least. I was gonna ask you, Monty, are you old enough? I'm gonna use quotes here. Old enough in RSC to remember Atom Mast by any chance?
No, he was past my time.
Okay, gotcha. I was gonna ask you, for any of the old timers out there, if a lot of what Atom Mast did, if that's still prevalent to what you're doing, or if that's a relatively unrelated thing at this point.
No, so we're while he has, I think I would say his code has informed a lot of the decisions that we've made. What he's contributed directly is not really something that we're using. We're, for the most part, kind of starting fresh. Not to say that anything that he wrote was bad or that it's not usable. It's more just like we're trying new coding paradigms. We're trying new styles, new elements, new ways of doing things. But a lot of what he wrote is always going to be in the league forever. So his mark is not by any means going to remain is not by any means going to be gone from the league.
Okay, excellent. Because yeah, I know Adam. Because I'm one of the older farts in this league at this point. But like
You
Adam's.
speak about it like your first season in RSC was streamed in black and white, man. It's
Oh, I mean, it kind of was, to be honest. I mean, HUD was around. HUD was around at that point, but yeah, it's been what, almost 6 years, give or take. Yeah. So, and
Is that
you
how
know,
you got those 4 titles? It's just been playing for 6 years in this league.
He's
well,
just been here
a little
forever.
bit, a little bit. I got the 2 ones right at season 4 and season 6,
Yeah.
and then the last ones were 16 and 17. So,
Season 4.
we're gonna forget the middle ground. I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, no, like Adam Mast, I mean, he was kind of very integral to this league because the initial league set up, the guy who did the original coding, I couldn't tell you his name. You'd need somebody else to give you that. But when he dipped the league, he took all of his code with him. So Adam Mast did a lot of the grunt work to get the league reset up and then post it publicly on GitHub, so that way anyone beyond him was going to be, not completely in the dark on how everything started. But also knowing programmers, a lot of them like to kind of start things on their own if they're not doing it themselves. So, you win some, you lose some. But there's no doubt Monty's an absolute monster behind the scenes, probably on the pitch too.
No, not even.
Oh, he carries the heck out of me, dude. When we're playing rank 3s, he drags me through these like GC lobbies. It's nuts.
All right, Monty,
That's all Amperage.
Monty, you got to carry me. I got a GC2 to reach, and I need your help.
I don't know if I can do that. That's too scary for me. Those people are way too fast and good.
That's
Wouldn't be me.
Well, Monty, do you have anything else that you'd like to discuss about the API, or are you all set for the night?
No, I think I'm pretty much good to go if you guys have no more questions.
I'm
Get
going
back
to
the
be
cool
honest.
stuff.
My knowledge on APIs is not the greatest, so I'm kind of firing from the hip here, whatever comes to mind.
I was gonna say, Monty, I got one last question for you. Comments or no comments?
Wow, that's a tough one. I guess what's the best way to put it? Good code is self-documenting. Great code is documented.
Fair enough.
oh my gosh.
You just blew Rob's mind.
Somebody write that one down. Holy,
But
put it on
Rob,
a
you need to get that
poster,
like
put it on the
framed and
back.
put on your back wall, so every time we stream going
There's
forward,
a
you can
master
see it.
way of coding over here.
Also, for I guess for anybody else who has who has a smidge more knowledge of code, what's this? What is all of this being written in?
Ooh,
Or
that
is it
is
a variety?
that is a great question. Mainly what the API is written in is Python. There is a little bit of JavaScript thrown in there as well. We're basically a majority of Python and JavaScript house with a little bit of C# thrown in because Musa used to write a lot of code.
Mhm.
So yeah, those are pretty much the three main languages that we use. But we're kind of all, since this is a hobby, we like to experiment some. So there has been some rust thrown around.
Okay, gotcha. For any of you guys who aren't familiar with a whole lot of coding right now, what Monty basically said is that there is a snake out there drinking a lot of coffee that can't sing in the correct key. And he's making the league better. So hopefully that doesn't bite us. There's a bunch of
Monty, I want to thank you for coming on the show tonight, man.
I
Yeah,
apologize for that last one. That was tough.
You take it easy, dude. Have a good night.
All right, y'all have a good night too.
Listen, I'm proud of myself. I can't fault me.
No, you can't fault you, but I can fault Elite for the next thing we're going to talk about.
Oh
which
my
is
God.
Somehow even more.
It's been
All
like
right.
5 seasons of Elite Chat being like the thing.
I'm gonna take another trip to the fridge if we're going into Elite Chat.
For those of you who understand that RSC's competitive nature sometimes breeds a more psychological warfare based comment system, Elite has taken that to the pinnacle. They have understood what being Reggie Miller for Rocket League looks like. God, we've got a great meme for that, actually, courtesy of Cameron. You can roll it now, my man. I gotta see that again. That's fantastic.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Oh, Doodle, I have some things to show you later.
Oh, God.
Oh, is there
I don't
audio
think
for
it's
this?
got audio for it.
Okay, cool.
Turn around. Every now and then I get a little bit terrified, and then I see the look in your eyes. Turn around, bite eyes.
No, there's sound.
No,
Every
there.
now and then I fall apart, and I need you now
Pretty sure there is.
tonight.
Just turn on this stream.
Yeah, I can hear it.
More than ever. And if you only hold
Greg, stop capping. Just
tight,
unmute your thing. I don't know what to tell you.
holding on forever.
Probably a good idea. There was a
Yeah,
lot
we'll
of
just play the
hilarious.
second time. Just go back to back with it.
Run it back. Fair enough. So yeah, well, actually, all three of us have had a long-standing access to Elite Chat, or at least the
Oh, it
last
got quiet.
several seasons.
You're losing audio.
I thought we were playing it all the way through so we could actually get it.
Aren't we?
Yeah.
No.
the fans know what's up.
I think we
other
should
part.
start like a weekly RSC meme thing. I think that would be funny. We should start like a submission thing where people can send in their RSC memes for a chance to get on the pre-jump.
I don't.
Obviously, we filter it out. Obviously, we
force it.
filter it out. No.
Like-
We mean we don't have to, but if people want to make good RSC memes, and I think that's a positive thing for the community. Or an RSC meme page on Instagram. If someone wants to start that, I would be your first follower.
I would say
Dude,
I don't.
I'm
it
just
might just
absolutely
be contained to
thrown for a
Elite.
loop.
It might also just be contained to Elite.
The fact
But-
that like it dropped with no warning either. Like there was no like lead up to it. It's just Cameron going, "I'm just gonna drop this right here."
You
He's
don't
so
need
funny.
lead up. You don't need lead up in Elite Chat. If you want to start something in Elite Chat, all you got to do is just start typing, and you're gonna get 20 people on that immediately.
I mean,
Oh,
as
God.
much as for anyone who's been around Elite for a few seasons, you know that I have more beef with Azathoth as a team than I think anyone has ever had with any individual franchise tier team. Right? Like I don't know if that's existed. And somehow I've like passed along I've like passed it to Fluffy, and now he's taken the role of being the Azathoth hater and just is running with it. But as much as it pains me to say, right? We were looking at those the numerical markers for what makes a team. Yeah, that's true. I did say that. We're looking for numerical markers of what makes a team good, and right, it's production at all the spots. Azathoth right now, their 3 starters are all between 73 and 78 RPV.
Yeah.
Look,
And
man.
that's what you need moving forward, right? You need production from first, second, third, every spot on the field if you're going to be Rocket League's a team game, and they're playing it like it. So shout
Yeah.
out to them, man.
I'm just saying, Rob, I think you're right. I think we need a spot for them to put them teams. So since we weren't using the exclusive 8 clip of the week thing because I got really lazy and don't want to make that video anymore, I've gone ahead and renamed it the RSC meme channel.
Nice.
So if anybody sees anything that in any of the tiers and they're like, this is comedy gold, just drop that right there for us and
Someone
we can
just
talk about it
tag
on the podcast.
Chelsea Acacia.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I say go ahead and throw Oki and Iwu in there while you're at it. May as well. But all I gotta say is like you said, Azathoth is contributing on the field in all facets, but they're also contributing off the field. They're absolutely top tier shit talkers.
There's nothing. Azathoth can do anything.
Because to be
Anything
fair,
Tech 4 related has to be good. Just
yeah,
anybody near
and
him.
and here's the thing though is, it used to be me, it used to be Skulls, it used to be Chips, and Greg's taken over the mantle. And you know who he recruited? Donald's 2 teammates. That is just a recipe for just nightmarish levels of trash talk and memes. And what was it? I think he brought up the F word earlier there, Rob. And I'm not talking about the 4-letter word, 4-letter one. I'm talking about fraudulent, right? And Elite Chat is fast to hype teams up, and they are just as fast to throw up the F word. They will call each other fraudulent left and right. It's a grand old time, to be honest. Honestly, I really wish Master Chat was slightly more involved.
There's
Master,
nothing. It's just chains of memes and copy pastas. There's
It's better than
happen.
Rival Channel, dude. Rival Channel's still counting.
But at least that's like active.
No,
like
Irish
this one
started this.
person just posts a meme one time, like once every 2 weeks, and then everyone gets around to checking it. They just repost the same thing, and that's it. That's all it is.
Rob,
Rival started counting in season 16 because Irish started doing letters, and then they got to the end. They went, what do we do now? Oh, let's just do numbers next. And then it's just been a colossal waste. That chat
yeah.
is only counting.
I'll at least give them credit for the dedication. At least they're
For
sticking
real.
to it. Master Chat, it's like, I know you are, but what am I? Like, that's like, because like even if Robert had come out, of the woodwork and just be like, "Hey, yo, Moose, you suck," like I wouldn't be able to respond to that. All I'd get is like 6 more copies of "Hey, yo, Moose, you suck," and then I would have to copy that.
Yeah, it's so
Like, it's tough out here.
God.
So that I to a certain extent I really miss Elite. The amount of just
What'd you say there,
amount. Yeah. I think familiarity breeds contempt, and Elite is just an absolute paragon for that. They are something else.
Everyone knows each other too and has been there for a few seasons, because it's where like it's hard to double promo anywhere, right? But like I don't know if there's ever been a vet to master. And so every player who eventually is getting to the point where they're 1500 plus is in Elite, right? In all these other tiers, you have maybe someone goes from Chally to Vet and they skip Rival. Maybe someone goes from Rival to Elite, they skip Vet, right? You don't have to stop in for a season or two at every tier. And it seems like that really starts at Elite, where you're here once, you're here twice, you're here, and everyone gets to know you while you are. You make some friends, make some enemies, and it just keeps going from there. It keeps spiraling.
For
You know,
sure. I think though that really covers this little bit of memes. Once again, recap: if you have found RSC memes in any tier and it is at least somewhat tame and won't get you struck, please put it in the RSC meme channel in the pre-jump Discord. There's a good chance it might end up on the stream. But moving into our last very massive segment, since we've smashed 2 deep dives together, we'll kind of have to not harp too much on it. Let's talk about some deep dives, starting with Premier, fellas. Capos, like, let's just start it off there. They're really establishing themselves as the best team in Premier, right?
well, when you're already clinched and you got 3 more match days to go, I would say, yeah, you've established yourself. It's you know, if this is a bit more injury riddled, you would start resting your starters. But
Oh, my
yeah,
thumb! Ah!
right.
Purple tunnel!
You make that joke, but what was it? Your boy Slider there accidentally decided to break his arm like right before season started, and then bro went through a miraculous rehab, only had to miss preseason, and then unfortunately left RSC due to other conflicts. So
Bugs
yeah,
broke his hand before playoffs last season.
yeah, so the injuries do occur. So make sure you guys are stretching your fingers. Don't want carpal tunnel. But yeah, no, Prem is cooking, and it's not just the capos, or capos, however you want to say it. But what do you got? 6 teams that are gonna make playoffs, right? Well, if you're not the top 6 teams right now, it's going to be a tough road ahead of you because the top 6 only need 6 wins at the worst to finish up their qualification.
Yeah.
Whereas the 7th place team is 6 games below 500, and they're going to have to bleeping cruise to get to where they need to be. So, you know, weren't the Fairies champs last year or close to it?
I think so. Was that Peaceful's team?
I don't think Peaceful won last season. I'm pretty
No,
sure
but I
Peaceful got
think-
eliminated.
Was he on the Orcas or the Fairies?
I think he was on the Orcas. Because I think he got eliminated by the Fairies.
Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Fairies were in it
So
last
was
year.
Rieg on the Fairies?
Ooh.
I think it's a Rieg. No, not. I was wrong. Who knows? All right, I'm pulling it up right now, actually, because I have everything bookmarked because I'm weird. So let's see who was on the Fairies last season. It was. Oh, come on, RPV sheet, please.
Yeah, who do you
Don't
need?
fail me now.
Actually, I've only got this season's up.
All right, it was Static. Oh, where did it go? Oh, it's back. It was
Fairies did
Static,
win last season.
J Pablo, and Fusion Bleach.
Oh, good old
Okay.
Fusion. Yeah, and that's where I'm pretty all in on these capos. Because good old Fusion, I absolutely love that man. He's been helping me prep for 2's grand finals. And before that, he scrimmed me in 2's, really got me ready. But all 3 of those guys, you've got Monster, Fusion Bleach, and Wolf, right? They're RPV. Now they aren't, they're top of the tier, but they're not like top of the tier. But all 3 of them are like
Producing.
they're all producing. They're within 5 spots of each other, right?
I think they're all All-Star candidates, right?
I would assume.
Yeah,
so.
all 3 of them are on the All-Star candidate list right now.
Yeah, because they all have plenty of games played. They're all cooking relatively. Monster's got an absolute ton of goals. If I'm not mistaken. Where'd it go? Never mind.
He leads Prem with 50 right now.
Yeah, so okay, my sheet reloaded and it just threw everything for a loop.
Yeah, but what? Yeah.
So
go for
my Well, if you've got something on the subject, you might as well go with it. Otherwise, I'm going to roll us into kind of a question for both of you guys, just to kind of find out really what you guys are thinking with this tier.
Sure, shoot.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, so right now, like it's pretty clear that as of this point in time, we're probably not going to see a shift in the playoffs race. Like I know the Fairies, they're technically on the cusp, but mathematically, it's not looking too favorable at this point.
Mhm.
What is your most, if you had to pick one thing for Premier, what is the most surprising thing you're looking at though with these teams that are slotted for the playoffs?
You want to go first, Moose?
Yeah, I guess I don't know if I'd call it surprising per se. Because Premier is very different from a lot of the other tiers, and just because of the fact that it is the absolute top, right? So a lot of things that make the other tiers relatively fair, Premier struggles with because of the fact because of how you have to team build. I know there was a lot of issues earlier with just total cap space. You've usually got one player that is more or less professional level Rocket League, whereas the other two are more basically
Like you,
like
just
me, like
master players. Yeah, man.
right,
Like seriously, it's 2 master players and a bubble player.
exactly. So you've got a guy who may as well be in RLCS, and then you've got two, and then he's trying to carry two master players, give or take, right? Or you've got a combination of just three general really really good players that are all what GC3 SSL, gosh darn near it. Like
Yeah.
they're all CRL or RL, not CS, but RLRS. If that,
RS regional. Yeah.
yeah. But they're all gosh darn good players, right? So I don't know if I guess the one thing I would say is obviously you got the capos at the top, right? Then you've got the next five. They're all darn near dead even in terms of record,
Yeah.
right? The Hurricanes have a 2-game edge. Viperfish, Gummy Bears, Interstellar, they're all tied. And the Tarbage Grucks, which is a lot easier to say now that I've had a few, which is kind of surprising, are only a game behind them, right? So you've got a very, very tight race for, if you want to call it, second place, right? And then we just got to see if the Capos can hang on, right? Because even in the absolute top of the tier, there are ways to scheme around another team. And at this point, Premier plays each other. They all know each other at this point. There's not a
Yeah.
whole lot of mystery.
There's nowhere to
So
promo out. If you're good, you just keep playing against
Well,
them.
And that's for
exactly.
for me at least, talking about these top 5, top 6 teams, like the part that was surprising for me, it kind of leading into your point, the Hurricanes were for a while there our clear number one. Like they were our number one in the top 5s for quite a bit at the start of the season. And then they've steadily come to a standstill, and it makes me nervous because like when you look at the other teams in the last 5, they're positive, and they're positive normally by a decent amount, excluding Interstellar, who's been 11-9, and everybody who's outside of playoffs in the last 5 has been struggling for sure. So I really do wonder what that will look like almost as a wild card for the Hurricanes, if they're going to regain and look like the number 1, number 2 best team, or if they're going to continue to struggle and potentially fall much further down. Because, like you said, there's 3 teams on their heels at 27-17. So it's real easy for one more match day of 2-2 or 1-3 to drop. All of a sudden, now you're, 5th or potentially 6th, and now you're playing the Crooked Capos in the first round.
Yeah, I think. Well, I'm kind of looking through it right now just to kind of see. Okay. So yeah, I guess the Hurricanes themselves, like just going through their last several match days. What was it? Last 5, right? We're on match day 11. So if we start at match day 6, right? So they're 2-2 against the Radishes, right? Nothing.
I played in that. by the way, for what it's
Good.
worth.
Oh my god!
No. I got. I'll
Promote
know
him.
what?
Get him the Prem. Just
Nor-
send him to Prem right now.
my teammates keep making fun of me. They're like, Moose, you're going to Prem. No, I'm like, please no. But I'll give Rob some props, right? Pumping up to Premier is a different level, right?
Yeah.
But then Hurricanes got up against Interstellar, so 3-1. Then they struggled against the Fairies, 1-3, 2-2 against the Tarbage Grucks. They beat the Urku Chile, whatever alpaca brand
Yeah,
that
the
is.
alpaca one.
Right, and then they went 1-3 against the Cabos, right? So they got the Capybaras, they got the Radishes again, they got the Tarbage Grucks. So just from who they've played, it seems like they've beaten who they expected to and lost to who they expected to, right? And they've just had a relatively balanced strength of schedule. I would imagine probably that some of the other teams that are currently in playoff contention have been beating up on teams that were not in playoff contention. So that may explain just kind of the random anomaly that is the second place team at 10-10, where everybody else is well positive.
I'm gonna
So
steal this because I have a little bit of opinion on this that I haven't heard either of you guys get at yet, which is that I think that regular season seeding in Premier means nothing. I think that you have, specifically in this season, where you have a 7-game gap between the 6th and 7th seed, and everyone else in the tier, for the most part, is extremely close. Yes, the Cricket Capos, whatever you want to call them, the Syndicate's Prem team is 6 games above second and 8 games above third, and they've earned that spot, right? But you have a lot of teams that have made a lot of changes. Tarbage Grucks, right? 26 and 18 haven't had Prada for a match day or two. Right, you're talking about the damn near MVP of the tier with a 97 RPV. That team has 26 wins. If that player's there for 2 match days, maybe that's 3 more wins, 4 more wins. Maybe they're first or second. Right? You have, I'm sure, a bunch of other teams have had similar situations. I think that going into this, it's seeding means nothing. You're gonna have to see which teams end up gelling at the right time. And what's surprising to me is that there's not really anyone. Yes, the syndicate is there, but it's not. It doesn't feel as glaringly dominant, right? Like last season, you had, and again, regular season doesn't mean everything, but you had a actual spread between wins throughout the tier to where, like, if you're the 1 seed, there was an actual benefit to being the 1 seed because you would play a worse team. I think what you're seeing right now in Premier is that there's not much of a difference between 2 and 6 in the playoffs. And if you end up with that 1 seed and you're the syndicate team, do you want to play Ante and Prada in round 1? Is that an award to you? Right? Like the players who, I mean, Ante's about to break the points record, like saves record, savior record, shot record, like, and now that Ante has the player with a 97 RPV, but they're in 6th. Right. So you look at all of these changes these teams have gone through, and especially at this highest level, play style and mesh ability. Like, these players have thousands upon thousands of hours in their specific play style. If they make a trade and maybe their new team is meshing either better or worse, you're going to see these records start to mean less and less as we push towards this playoff spot, and where they're gonna it's just perform or don't.
yeah,
One last thing to kind of throw in, I guess, before moving into another question. You are right. Ante's insane. For those of you who haven't really been following Twos League, Ante just won his 2nd straight chip in Premier for Twos. Like back-to-back seasons, he just got his chip.
nah. No, honestly, good. That's honestly super good on Ante. I've heard many good things about him from a variety of relatively reliable sources.
Relatively.
But
Reliable, got it.
yeah, no, and I agree. Like, it's like I've been saying all night. You get to the dance, you can do something, right?
Mhm.
And none of these teams seem like they're that far out of it. So obviously, getting the 1 and 2 seed, they get buys for Premier, correct? 1 and 2 gets buys, and then the other 4 play it out, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not positive of. I know some tiers were switching it up. and have made some changes. I believe that's how it was. I'm pulling up last season's standings. I believe that's how it was last season.
Okay.
Let me see. I have it up now. Premier, they did get a bye. Yeah,
Okay.
1 seed, but there were also conferences.
Right. And this time there's no conferences.
So it might just be that 1 plays 6, 2 plays 5, 4 plays 3. Well, that wouldn't
That-
work.
No,
Yeah,
that'd
that wouldn't
be
work. Yeah.
yes.
So it would,
Well-
they 1 and 2 has to get
No,
buys on
it's only
alternate
top
sides of the
6,
bracket.
but 1 and 2 have to get a bye.
Yeah.
that's
yeah.
unless you're doing some really goofy
The 3
format.
plays
Because
6.
then it would be
4 plays 5.
3v6, 4 and 5, and then the winner of 3v6 plays 1. Or no, winner of 4 and 5 plays 1.
So then
Yeah.
I'm going to change my point a little bit, actually, because that's a very good thing to bring up, right? Is that this 1 and 2 spot actually like really do matter. So you have Capos, Syndicate, whatever, in first, looking to they've essentially locked it up. And then you have that massive rush for that 2 spot where it does matter, right? Getting, even if you think that you can beat whoever you're playing against, just not having to do that, not having to play against a really good team and just moving forward is a really big advantage.
Oh yeah. And depending on how the playoff schedule runs, because I'm sure you guys have either been there or can at least relate, right? Sometimes when you're that wild card, right, that wild card team, and then you go run up into the team that's off of a bye, if those matches are in the same night, that sometimes
They're
helps
cold.
you.
Yeah, they can be
because
cold.
because you play, you just played a team, you're feeling good, you got some momentum off the win. Assuming you didn't, assuming it wasn't like a back and forth affair. And then the team that's coming in, I don't know who the heck Prem scrims. Like usually the rest of us like will borrow the team above us to
Yeah.
go like
Probably
scrim us.
CRL teams and whatnot.
Right. Oh yeah, they're probably busy asking G2 if they're busy, right?
Yeah.
But that can certainly be a factor in it. I guess the other thing too is again, a little bit of game planning. I don't know if these guys are like stealing, downloading replays and taking a look at what their opponents like to do, see if there's any tendencies they can break, which player to target, that sort of a thing. If not, maybe they should get on that. I don't know.
So,
but yeah, and then sometimes you got the other end of it too. It's like, well, if you're the second seed, you got 1 less match to play, which means your odds increase by 33%. You got 1 less match to go. So
to steer us kind of back into some more like really hardcore prem subject matter here, a question for both of y'all. If we're, we look at these teams, there's a 7-game difference between 6 and 7. So there's realistically a pretty good spread between playoffs and not playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Is there potentially a dark horse team that can squeak into the playoffs? And is it even possible with only, 8 matches left to be played?
I don't think so. I think it's chalked. I think you have your 6 teams that have pushed to make their separation. A 7-game gap where you have 8 games left, like you're talking about Anti and Prada going 1 and 7, and then the team below them going 8 and 0. And then I just don't see a way at this level where there's this much consistency. You just see records closer to 500. You're not gonna. I do not believe that anyone's gonna go at least 8 and 0 in the last 4 matches, and I think that's what has to happen if you want to see that change happen.
all right, I'll play devil's advocate here because 1, it's fun, and 2, I think it's a possibility. Let's say we're fairies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or capybaras, because they're all, and heck, even Mengpo if you really want to. But let's do this, right? Let's play.
Mingpo is mathematically eliminated from the playoffs.
Well, that is tough.
Fairies plays Interstellar. So they have
Also,
3 match days left.
Capybaras
actually.
are also mathematically
There's
eliminated.
12
There's-
games,
split.
not
12
8.
Yeah, there's 12
Is there
games to go.
12?
Yeah,
I thought we just
so-
got through match day 11.
Yeah, they got 12,
There's-
13, and 14 to go.
Yeah.
Oh, 14,
So-
okay.
So that
12.
changes things. I still think it's chalked, but that makes it significantly less chalked.
All right, so let's say I'm fairies, right? Where are my fairies?
They got to play Interstellar, they got to play Mangpo, and they got to play Double Mint, which
Okay.
is, I mean, that's a feasible route, right? You're above 2 of those teams, and Interstellar is one of those teams that if they can take a 4-0 off them or even win that series, like that's the difference between pushing Interstellar down, beating those teams below you, and pushing above them, right? So
Yep.
it's there.
And the other thing I was going to say too is, let's say that I am, I don't know. Let's say I'm Tartan or Jat, right?
Mhm.
You know, two top SPV RPV players right now that are not in playoff contention, right? What if they were to go ahead and go to the Fairies last second, right?
When is trade deadline in Prem?
So it's always 2 match days before the end of the regular season. So they could potentially play Monday and then be traded on Tuesday. Tuesday would be the last day for them.
Okay.
So that being said, if they were to go ahead and let's say Jat wound up on a new team on on Sunday tomorrow, right? There is a shot, right? Now, I agree for the most part. Dark horsing in the top of the tier, it's gonna be relatively unlikely
Yeah.
because most factors at this point are known, right? There's no unknown, there's no like up and coming RLRS team, right? It's not like a pre-made thing. It would probably have to be a trade into a borderline team that goes
Mhm.
on a Miracle on Ice style run, right? 9
Like
out of
what you're
10.
looking to do in Prospect, right? With your pickup.
Well, yep, and I mean that's just how it goes, right? Trade deadline's coming up. I've got this fun spot of gosh darn near every single one of my teams is like on that border. They're either in or they're out, but they're close, with the exception of my scary Chally team, who are like solidly in.
Somehow
Right.
they're cooking, man. They've been cooking.
Yeah, and
Right.
and honestly, it almost makes more sense if they weren't cooking, but we take those.
I agree.
But anyways, right? So, you know, this is the time to make blockbuster moves, right? Trade deadline approaches. If you're a contender, you're a buyer, right? If you are not a contender, you're a seller. You go ahead and get what value you can, so that way next season you got an extra pick, you got a little bit more trade value to work with, right? So if I'm GM of the Fairies or the Capybaras, I might be, if my captain thinks, hey, there's a shot, we just need, one dude to switch it up. I'm getting on the horn and I'm gonna see what I can do, right? So, and what's it, Rob? With me coming into the kind of the emergency GM position, I found myself without any like 4th round picks whatsoever. So you got to do like, GMs know how to make moves, and you sacrifice what you're willing to do in the season, and then the off season be damned, right?
Yeah.
You go
You're
take
pushing the chips to try to win. Like you have
exactly.
your window, and your championship window is not open for very long, ever.
Right.
And
But fellas,
The question being was what is your dark horse team? We've got still a whole other tier to cover, fellas. Like we got to keep this rolling.
right.
Well, we'll call it Fairies.
Yep, they're the closest. We'll give it to them. We'll move it along. Go Fairies.
And
Also, Ghosty, make sure you have good internet.
Yeah, facts. Make sure you're
Uh,
there for
rolling
finals.
into the final question for Premier, is there a clear-cut MVP that you would be willing to anoint at this point in time in the season?
I would pick
Yep.
Ante personally. I think that if you look at statistics, right, Ante has almost double the saviors of any other player in the tier. He has 24. Second is at 14. He's top 3 in cycles. They're about to break the points record. Has 19 MVPs, about to break the MVP record, about to break the save record, putting up a top 3 RPV, playing with people who aren't showing up, have internet issues. I think there's a lot of players that you could make an argument for, but I think if you're having me pick one right now, this is the most clear-cut case that we have.
I'll go a different direction. I'll argue Cruncho. Because Cruncho, one, he's got less games played, so he's also got more goals than Ante.
Yeah.
Now obviously his point per game isn't quite there. His shot percentage is astounding.
Whack for Premier. Whack
Premier
on that volume.
42%. So if Bro decides to start shooting, it's over. In once you get the playoffs. So, Interstellar's got a shot here. You got Wicked and Cruncho. That seems to be a very dynamic duo. Both of them are rocking, 45 plus goals. So I'll give it to Cruncho. He's an OG. Cruncho's been running around for a gosh dang while. And actually, you know what? Never mind. Wicked's also got a ton of assists and a ton of saves.
Yeah.
Maybe he's looking Cruncho. Maybe he's making Cruncho look good. I don't know. But yeah, both those guys. I don't know. We'll give it to Interstellar.
If you had
Just
to
to be
pick
different.
one, though, who are you picking?
You know what? I'm going Wicked. Actually, I love Cruncho because he's OG.
Yeah,
Wicked,
that 40 assists and 55 saves number.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
an all-around contributor. On a relative scale. Now the per game stats aren't quite as nice when you factor in he's got 8 additional games. So again, it's arguable.
I mean,
But-
17 more assists in 8 more games is still a lot, and 30 more or 22 more saves in 8 more games is still a savior
on.
per game more.
It's only
Hold on.
it's 0.2 assists and 0.2 saves per game. So I don't know. It's close. I don't know. Flip a coin.
I think if
Thank you,
I was
thank you, HUD.
to, I think if I was to pick a player, right, and I'm not going based on just raw stats, right? I casted the Premier's finals for twos, and I know there's a different pace of play, there's a different rotational style. Watching some of the shots that Likewise and North were putting on target, and then seeing Ante just elevate and shut it down as if it was just elite playing against a prospect player, it looked nuts to watch. I think that level of defensive prowess is going to carry them very far in the playoffs and potentially lock up some of the more volatile offensive minded players in Premier. So I really do think that we're going to see, at least from my perspective, we're going to see Ante establish themselves as the MVP for both leagues.
Yeah. My only argument is just the fact that Likewise is an elite threes player going up against a premier threes player, even though
but that's
they're in the
also
same
Say that
tier
like
as
he
the
didn't
twos.
have a doomsday
Yeah.
dish flip reset this
Well,
last
no. It's
time.
also that Ante also has elite level threes players, right? Like the way that the salary cap works in twos. If you're 1900, you get a 1600 teammate.
Right.
And so yes and no. I do agree with what you're getting at, Moose, though, which is that it's a little bit hard to take the twos premier things at face value.
Yeah.
But the fundamental mechanics and consistency that we see from Ante, I'd be curious how many other players in Premier are or have hit SSL in ones, twos, and threes besides himself.
Right.
Because I have a hunch that numbers is not that high.
Yeah.
The consistency is just different.
Oh yeah. I mean, Skullsy and Chips are both premier and twos, so that's all I gotta say.
That,
I think,
oh goodness.
All right.
think
Is it
wrapping up
contender time?
MVP, it is contender time. With wrapping up
Cool.
MVP for Premier, we're going to run through effectively the same 3 questions. We'll talk about who we think is kind of going to take it all, who we think is going to dark horse, and who we think is going to MVP. We'll start us off here with the top team. Rob,
course.
who do you think is going to be the best team out of 10D, and why is it Dagon?
Yeah. Exactly. I think that's the decision or the question you're asking yourself for the second straight season. And for a whole plethora of different reasons. Again, you look at the lower tiers, you look at Nightfall from amateurs we were talking about. They have 4 players with at least a 63 plus RPV. You look at Dagon, you have 4 players with at least a 60 RPV. You have Heartless, which putting up some ridiculous stats with 17 MVPs on the season. You have Laura. I mean, you just have 3 players on any given night producing with in every way that you could ask for, and especially in the lower tiers, that stuff is really, really infrequent. And I think that depth really lends itself in playoffs, and I think that's where we're really going to see it make that big difference.
Moose,
Yeah.
who you got as your best team in 10D?
Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to eliminate the memory of Dagon championship last season.
Against
That's
Ice.
that 28,
Yeah.
like 20 to
Yeah.
3 aggregate through
Someone
4
like
matches.
outshot their or outscored their entire team through the series. Like just
Yeah.
unreal.
When a team puts up double digits level of goals against an opposing team in the finals, that's a whoops.
To be fair, that was more of a conference thing because that team was, I believe, about 500.
Yeah, lunar. Let's see. If you're gonna go back at it, I think only Solar had one championship team. Lunar had the rest of them outside of the Master, which didn't have a comp.
And Lunar also had both the Sharks teams.
Yeah. But yeah, you got Heartless and Lorax not far behind.
Mhm.
And Chaos is not far behind that, right? You got multiple team and Zach the Bull. Like you got 4 players that are just at top 10, right?
Yeah.
No shot. Like you're where some of the other tiers, I think you can get away with a little bit more. How do I put it? Because it's funny, because like Premier is like the most consistent and it's fairly straightforward. But you get down to Contender Amateur, and it's kind of the same thing, right? You got a couple of teams that will absolutely run away with it. Whereas the middle tiers, there's a little bit more interplay based on how the teams are built, based around maybe one hard carry or a more solid like front 2 or maybe
Yeah.
a total like 3s rotation. I think just with where the skill levels are at, obviously Premier is fairly set in stone. In terms of their overall skill level, but Contender, you can get a couple of players that'll just absolutely torch tier. And Tech manages to find 4 of them to,
Yeah.
run that.
Again.
I don't know what he does. Well, actually, I kind of do. But
I'll go ahead and jump in here for sure. I mean, Dagon really looks like every bit the consistent Tendy team that you wouldn't expect, and it's crazy that last season they broke the winning percentage at like 84, 85% win, and this season they're going to be close to that with a total rebuild. It's incredible, but I can't pick another team over Dagon to take it at this point. They just
I
look too
think
good.
I agree that you can't pick one over them, but I do think there's a few that could make a push. You look at specifically Gluttony, just 2-2 Dagon. I don't know if they what whole team played or
Wait, are you
whatnot.
saying make a push to be the best team in the tier?
Yes, yes. I think there's a couple teams that you could see make a. I'm not going to say that it's going to happen. Dagon is my pick, but I think Gluttony for one. They 2-2 Dagon a couple of match days ago. Regardless of who Dagon had playing, right? We know that all 4 of their players are putting up stats. All 4 of their players are good, and you see a 2-2 coming out there, and that's the number 2 team in the tier. And so if a 2-2 can happen, a 3-2 can happen. And I'm not picking Gluttony, but I do think it's worth considering and worth noting that that happened. I also think if you want a really dark horse here, Dread. 24 and
Whoa,
20.
whoa. That's the next question, man.
Alright,
You
alright,
gotta
alright,
like
alright,
wrap up your
alright.
thought
Yeah,
process
wrap up
and
my
then we'll move
thought.
on to the
I
next
don't know if
one.
you're gonna give me my time. Anyway,
Your
yeah, go
time,
ahead.
man. We're almost
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
gonna hit 2 hours with ease. What do you
Exactly,
mean?
exactly.
you knew this was gonna happen the second you brought me on.
You did say this.
Look, let's just so we're all in agreement. We all think currently the best team is Dagon, right? Does anybody
Yeah.
think otherwise?
No.
No,
Okay.
because even with the what's it? Just from a fun stat standpoint, play ball with me here for just a second, right? Dagon has 7 losses, right? We have now completed 11 match days. Now, as Rob pointed out, Dagon went 2-2 with Gluttony, right? Which means they've rocked 5 sweeps, and the rest have been 3-1s, minus the 1-2-2. So what is that? 5 sweeps, 5 3-1s, and 1-2-2. That is gross.
They also
Across-
2-2'd Ice for what it's worth.
Did they? Am I
Yes,
lost?
they did. They
Oh, never
2-2'd
mind.
Ice 2 match days ago.
Oh, you know what? So never mind. They might have 6 sweeps then. I could be 6 sweeps. Should be 6 sweeps.
So they're sweeping the teams that they're supposed to beat, right? But then Ice is 21 and 23. Maybe it's our playoff spot is locked. We'll let our 4th man play. But also, if you're 37 and 7 or 35 and 5 before that matchup, and you go 2-2 with a team that's under 500, We're talking about you can talk about getting hot at the right time, but what about getting as cold as ice at the right time? Whoa, come on,
I
man. That was
love
heat.
it.
Thank you.
Ro-
Anyway,
Rob's
uh,
cooking some cheese pizza over
yeah.
there.
Oh
Who's
man.
my random dark horse because I picked a name off a list. No. Um but no, you might have something there. It also might be a little bit of an overlook, right? You see you're the top seed, right? You're already
Yeah.
locked in. Um so who really cares to a certain extent? Um but yeah, I don't know. You're Gluttony or Wisps, right? They're the next two. They're the next two closest. They're kind of your best possibility to maybe upset Dagon, but that one seed's pretty much locked, I think.
Boss, do you have a dark horse?
So dark horse wise, like I did a lot of really, really in-depth mathematical review for this tier. And I brought up this team a couple weeks ago with talking about, Dread had a fairly
Nice.
favorable uh end of season strength of schedule. Well, they got through the easier section. They went 14-6, and now they've got a really strong final stretch. That's like, what is it? 0.563 is what I'm looking at here. That is going to be rough, but I think if any team from what I've been looking at has the chance to come out of this 24-24 way tie, it's probably going to be Dread. And then we'll see, I would suspect Pastry Pioneers and Cheese Pizza, and then Gallery Guild will probably fall out of that group. So
Well,
Dread's
Dread
going to be my
plays
pick.
2 of those 3 teams for what it's worth.
Yeah.
Dread plays Pastry Pioneers and Gallery Guilds in that tied spot, right? So we are going to be getting our answers for those head-to-head matchups. But speaking of Dread, I think it's most important to note whether it comes down, in my opinion, I think that Dread can compete for this title if Light MCC ends up playing. This player has played 28 matches, and they are tied for second in the tier in goals with 51. Right, so this person is putting up unreal stats. They have almost 70 more points per game than anyone else in the tier, and almost an additional half goal per game, 1.85. 8 hat tricks in 28 matches also leads the tier. And so if you have your best player playing 2/3 of your games and you're still competing for a playoff spot, I mean, what does it look like? Oh my goodness! Shout out MLE Esports for rating with a party of 42. Thank you for hopping in here.
Go
It's
team.
always I actually met a bunch of the MLE podcast guys at the Boston LAN, boss. You were there too.
Oh my goodness, man. So I was actually kind of upset because I didn't get to see Pandy, somebody who's actually in charge of their production side. Really cool dude to
Yeah.
hang out with. I didn't get to see him, but there was a lot of MLE people there that was yeah, all over the place.
Yeah. Well, welcome in. We're talking about our contender tier, our champ 1, champ 2 tier, champ diamond 3, champ 1 tier. And we have a couple real threatening teams at 37-7 is one we're talking about right now, putting up unbelievable stats. But again, going back to it, I think that Light has a chance to dethrone this team. If they end up playing and they end up making that push, they have been flat out the most dominant player and contender this season, but just only 28 matches played. And so I don't know the situation, but if they can come through and start playing these final match days, there's a serious push to be made for this team.
I was
think
gonna drop. Oh, sorry, boss.
No, go ahead, Moose. Go ahead.
I was gonna
I know you like to talk.
drop.
It's okay.
I know I like to talk. I was gonna drop a couple names real quick. Tell me if any of these guys sound familiar. Raichu and Kakashi Rage.
Yeah.
Either of those
Yeah,
sound
they
familiar?
both played for Elastic
Yeah.
last season. Raichu popped like a 94 SPV, and Kakashi Rage just like a 63.
Yep.
I coached both of those guys.
So the reason I bring them up is they have playoff experience. They have championship experience,
Did
right?
you guys already shift into MVP talk?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
But Raichu's on the Wisps and Kakashi Rage is on Ice. Now Kakashi Rage has been a little bit more silent from an RPV standpoint, SPV standpoint, while Raichu is one of your top guys, right? But both those teams are either A, solidly in playoff contention, Raichu on the Wisps, and Ice, you got Kakashi Rage. So they have experience. And sometimes in the lower tiers, when you get to the when you get to playoffs for that first time, you're kind of nervous. So the fact that these two have been there before, it's nothing new, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes, a playoff player can be very different from a regular season player. And both those guys popped off in playoffs last time I saw them, which was not long ago. It was last season, right? So, I'll give them a shout out and say they're not out of it. If I want to be contrarian to Dagon being an absolute menace, which they are,
So
right?
honest. So while we're talking about players here, I think this is the best point to talk about MVP candidates, right? Like
Mhm.
Tendy is one of the shorter seasons. We're getting MVP kind of discussions really starting in a lot of these tiers. Who who are you guys picking realistically to go away with the contender MVP for season 18?
If they hit the games played threshold, I think I'm taking light MCC.
They just
Again,
need to play
just
40% of their tier, right?
60, I believe.
60%?
Yeah,
Mhm.
you gotta be 2/3 of your games played.
So what is that? 56 for Tendy because it's 14 match days?
Yeah,
Yes.
so do 67% of that,
They
which
need
I believe
34 games. So with what is it? 2 more match days?
no, they
MVP
got 3.
eligibility is
3 more
just
match days.
60%. It's not
Yeah,
2/3.
they only need 6. They only need 6 more matches to make MVP eligibility, and they
Yeah.
have 12 available to play. It's definitely going to be an option.
Yeah, I would, but the thing is they've missed so many, right? Like if they might not even be there. But I just looking at the stats, right? It's just like I hate to say it's not close, but I think if when you look at the offensive production, I mean no one's really outproducing this player on defense by that much, and the offensive production is just unrivaled. I think that if this player had played, they were on my record watch early on for the first half of this season, and then their number of games dropped off. But I think they were going to break or on pace to break a number of records in this tier, which is exceptionally impressive considering these back-to-back Dagon seasons.
Yeah, I was gonna go a similar route too, because everybody loves an offensive player.
Mhm.
And I found one that, well, wasn't all that hard to find. Um,
Looking at Yummy?
oh, I'm looking at Yummy, right?
They're looking pretty yummy over there.
Oh, of course.
Oh
And
my goodness.
well,
PG, fellas. PG. Let's come on.
listen, all right. The puns write themselves. Yummy's on
Mhm.
Yummy's on cheese pizza, all right. I haven't had second dinner yet, which means I'm starving, and they have a hunger for goals. They're not on gluttony, but they do have a hunger for goals.
Nice.
44% shooting, which is like every 2 shots, darn near, right? They got 61 goals. They are outright leading the tier in terms of
Mhm.
outright goals. Now they're not as goal per game as Light is, right? But
They're almost
sometimes,
a half behind.
yeah, the trouble is sometimes people don't consider the average, right? They
Mhm.
just see the total number and say, "Oh, that's a nice number," and then they go
Yeah.
after it. Um, and also I got to, points per game, like, again, points per game, especially at the top 5, right, is all relatively close, minus Light,
Minus light, yeah.
right? So if I'm gonna pick anybody else, I think Yummy's gonna take it. Total number of goals way higher than the rest of the other 5, or next 4, right? Um, what's it? Assists. Who needs to pass the ball in this
So
tier? And saves as on par with everybody else. So that'd be
this
my
is
next bet.
this is where I'm glad you brought up total number of goals. And I know, Rob, you've been talking about light MCC, but
Yeah.
light MCC is getting effectively the brunt of the points because they're of all. I don't want to call it a carry, but they're definitely doing the majority of the workload for their
I mean,
team.
2 goals per
Uh,
game, you can call it a carry. Like,
yeah,
if you're scoring twice
my
every game you play, like,
hold
that's
on. We're
yeah,
in
yeah,
agreement
sorry.
though. They're doing
Go
the
ahead, go
lion's
ahead.
share of their team's work.
Mhm.
Heartless wins right
Yeah.
now, 80.5. They've been killing it. They've got 49 goals, which is incredible considering when you look at their next teammates. Lorac has 51, and then you look at their third teammate, Illusion Chaos. They have 35. Sorry. So I mean, like, yes, they're not getting the bulk numbers, but they are absolutely the shining star still on a team that already looks incredible all around. And realistically, for me, I think that that puts Heartless Wins in that category of you're the best player on the best team. You're losing a little bit of your numbers because your teammates are actually stepping up and helping take the workload. So I think if you were to swap positions here, Heartless Wins might actually look even better than Light MCC.
Or would you say that maybe he's got his job easy because they're generating so much offensive pressure, and maybe Light MCC has to do more work, which makes him a better MVP candidate?
I think that's the difference, though, between like the Cloudy Raccoon argument that we had a couple seasons ago.
Listen, Rec
Oh,
just wants
I
more
think we lost
raccoons.
Rob. I think we just lost Rob's audio.
He's definitely talking, but he's game over.
Oh,
Anyways,
Any-
Raccoon plays for Raccoon emotes. That's all I can tell you.
True.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
We got you.
Nice. Yeah, my internet at the house is not the greatest, and sometimes it just like cuts out. So we're back. I think that is an interesting argument, right? Like best player on the best team, but then like if you look at a four-headed attack, the award is most valuable. If you're on a team that's 37-7 and you have four players, at least three players who are all-star candidates, right? Like you may be producing and may be extremely helpful, but I would argue that you are less valuable to that team because let's say you take Heartless off that team, right? If that player can't make that, then you're left with a player with boohoo, a 76, 67, and 61 RPV, and they're still probably, arguably, the best combination of three players in the tier. If you take Light off of Dread, I mean, who's next on that RPV list? It's
Porkers.
Probably
Porkers
Laura.
out of 46.
Oh,
Right? So
okay.
you have Dread with he's 18-10, and this team is what is Dread's record? 24-20. So they're 6-10 without this player. And they're 18-10 with him. So that's just 12 straight wins is the difference when this player shows up. And I think that is the definition of value. You are producing at a higher level and you make it the largest difference in winning.
For sure. Well, I think so. That's everybody's pick, at least. We got Rob's with Light MCC. Moose, you said Yummy. I said, yeah, we got everybody.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm just hungry at this point, so
I
Go
am
play for
in.
Gluttony, Moose.
I am
Hi.
in the same boat.
that's my second favorite sin. Don't ask me
But
about my third.
fellas, I think we've got everything carried away, or at least taken care of here through week 24 of the Pre-Jump podcast. Hopefully, for next season, I'll be better about actually having it being listed as season 3, episode 1, instead of just continuing on the double-digit counting.
Right.
But outside of that, for everybody who's tuned in, thanks for tuning in. I know if you missed most of the podcast, you want to catch what we've been talking about, the VOD will be on YouTube rather quickly, probably within the next 24 hours, thanks to GoFig. But outside of that, Rob, Moose, thanks for being here. People watching, thanks for being here. Catch us next week.